Welcome to another episode of the Discourse BB. This is the last episode of this year, and we are going to talk about the BBI and the Constitution. My name is Emmanuel Mamadi, and my guest today is Linus Oyugi, a lawyer and a political analyst. Welcome, Linus.
Thank you, Mamad.
Yeah. The BBI. You've seen the BBI?
Yes.
Taking another. Yes. What's your take on the BBI? We've seen it rolling.
Okay. The building bridges initiative, we need to put it into its context. This is a political initiative which is majorly meant to achieve political goals. Despite the document being considered a constitutional document, I believe the majority of its provisions aims at achieving some political interest rather than constitutional changes.
So is it a valid document? You as a lawyer, would you advise someone to say it's a valid document?
Okay, from my perspective, the document, most of its provisions does not meet the constitutional threshold. I believe most of the proposals in the BBI, we can achieve them through legislative draftings and maybe policies from the government, as long as our leaders are willing and have the goodwill to do so. So I don't believe it is a constitutional amendment per se, except for some provisions which try to change the structure of government and maybe introduce other accountability mechanisms, such as introduction of commissions, which may be essential in achieving our dreams as per the current constitution.
So we'll go much into constitution in comparison also to the BBI.
Right.
Now you are a lawyer, now, and you also are youth.
Yes.
So what do you think is the place of the youth when it comes to the BBI? Does it articulate what the youth really want in this country?
Thank you, Mamad. So BBI as a document and in relation to the youth, we should look it from the start to the end, how the process was started. The BBI is as a result of handshake between two people. Then after the handshake, a steering committee was formed. If you look at the composition of the steering committee, the youth, they are not represented. So just from its initiation, it is clear that this document has nothing for the youth.
So do you imply that the document is majorly for two main people, whom the people have said, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta, the president, and the former premier, Mr. Raila Odinga?
I believe the document is majorly for the two main people based on the current political and economic situation. If this document was for the majority of Kenyans, then we could not be in a rush to ensure that we have a referendum and it is adopted before the 2022 elections.
But they can come out and say that they have signatures. Actually, they say that they've collected 1.5 signatures already. So does this show that people are also willing? And who are these people? You could say.
Okay, that is the argument we always have. We have the signature, or rather, people supporting us. But the question is it ideal? Because you will always have those who support you, whether you are right or you are wrong. But as a person, you need to sit down. Is it ideal? You see, currently we have serious issues to deal with. We have the corona pandemic. We have the doctors' strike. If these people had the interest of the majority of Kenyans, the best they could offer us at this point is to derail the process. We can still amend the constitution after we have solved the doctors' issues, after we have tried to address the COVID-19 pandemic issues, so that after this period, we can now settle down as a country and talk about the constitutional changes they want to bring.
So you're saying there are other ailing issues into the country that need to be addressed before the BBI comes in place. So,
exactly, that is what I'm trying to say. We need to solve these issues, and also I believe the timing of this constitutional amendment is not good. Mamadi, we have 1 year to an election. It is not proper to amend a constitution years to election, especially 1 year to election. If we want to solve our problems, let's do this amendment after the 2022 elections. The amendments are good, but I believe the timing is bad.
So you're saying 1 year to election, you've alluded to it. It's not a proper timing.
Yes.
You said after the election will be a proper timing. So what will be the ramification? What are the effects now that it's 1 year to election? What are the effects and how does it play out in the 2022 politics?
I think the ramification of having this amendment at this point are many. First, Mamadi. People are supporting this document because of their interest in 2022. That is what majority of the politicians are doing. It is not a matter of this document being good or bad, but we need to have a formation by 2022. And just like any other constitutional amendments, we'll be having political vehicles as a result of the BBI. Meaning this is basically based on their interest.
Okay.
They're not looking at the larger picture. And that is why I believe if we amend the constitution 1 year to election, after the election, we'll be trying to implement it, to amend it further. Because now maybe those who are supporting the BBI so as to secure their position in 2022 will not achieve that. Then now they will come back through back door and tell the people we need to change this. So we'll be implementing this constitution after every election, just to ensure the politicians are taken care of, their interests are taken care of.
Okay, now the composition of the BBI. Let's get to the executive. The executive, we saw that we have a position of the Prime Minister being created,
Yes.
which is contrary to the Constitution of the 2010 that we have.
Yes.
Is this thing necessary, the position that is being created? Is it necessary? Because they're saying that it's to bring inclusivity. Talking about
Yes.
the composition also, we
Yes.
saw about the executive, we also saw about the constituencies being increased.
Yes.
Now, are all these necessary, considering the wage bill also?
Okay. Thank you, Mamadi. I will start from the issue of the Prime Minister. According to BBI, this Prime Minister will be appointed by the President, and then Parliament will approve or decline to do so. And further, the President can, if in case the Parliament decline to approve his nominee, he will nominate another person the second time. The second time, if Parliament fails to approve this second name, then now the President will have the leeway to appoint the Prime Minister without the approval of the Parliament. Now, will the President have the goodwill? That is the question we need to ask ourselves. There's nothing which prevent the president from appointing somebody from his tribe. Because we claim we want to achieve inclusivity.
Yes.
And we have seen the appointments being done in Kenya. Mostly, they will look for somebody who will favor their ideology, or they will look for somebody from their tribe, or maybe a friend. So how will this appointment ensure we have inclusivity? It basically depends on the goodwill of the person who will elect as the president.
And will this be in the good interest of the people? Having Prime Minister and two deputy Prime Ministers, is it in the good interest of the people?
Just as I've said, it will depend with who we elect as the president.
As the president.
Yes. If he has the goodwill, then he may appoint people from various tribes. But if he doesn't have that goodwill, then it will be hard. We'll still have the same problem. We'll still be talking about inclusivity until maybe we have another constitutional amendment.
Which seems to be coming after every 10 years.
Yes.
And now they show the constituencies. We'll see that it has the increase of constituencies, more than 500 constituencies. Now, how do you take this? How do you interpret this as a lawyer?
Okay, thank you, Mamadi. First, I believe we may need more constituencies, but we should not do it through a constitutional amendment. We have the IBC, that is their duty. They conducted census, so it is upon them to check which area need an additional constituency. But we should not leave this to a steering committee, because one, I believe they are not experts. Two, they are in this committee to serve the interest of specific people. So we still don't understand how they came up with the number. How they concluded Nairobi need 12 more, while a place like Western need only 2 to 3 constituencies.
And you mentioned we may need the constituencies. Why would we need the constituencies?
First, we may need them depending with the population and the ratio, because the IBC is taxed with that duty. They can review the boundaries. So this proposal ought to have come from them, not the politicians, because they have the data and they have the knowledge and experts who can do that.
Okay.
So they ought to have left that to IBC.
Okay.
Maybe they set the numbers 70, but they were not to divide it to specific counties. They were to leave that to IBC to check across the country which specific counties needs these constituencies.
Okay, another issue that came up is about the allocation of the revenue. The allocation of the revenue, the Constitution stipulates about the 15% right now. Now the BBI proposed about the 35%. How effective and practical will this be, considering that the 15% also revenue allocation has been a problem to them in this regime?
Okay, Mamadi, if we check allocation previous years, it has not been 15%. It is always 30 to 34. Meaning this is something which was already yes. So it doesn't mean that there is something new being introduced by putting it at 34. What I believe is that these are things which we could implement easily through policies or legislative or through legislative avenues.
Okay.
Yes, so by putting it at 35, I think it is meant to hoodwink the public so that they can vote for BBI.
Okay, and before the BBI emergence, there was also Punguza Mzigo. Now, people are claiming that this was dead on arrival, Punguza Mzigo. Why will this be, and making the comparison between the BBI, the Punguza Mzigo, and also the Constitution? Which document will you vouch for and why?
Thank you, Mamadi. People said Punguza Mzigo is dead on arrival because of the type of politics we have. We are majorly psychopaths.
That's true.
So, who was leading Punguza Mzigo? Is he known?
Good or what?
That is the issue. How many supporters is the person having? So automatically, politicians will say it is dead on arrival. And the psychophants, their psychophants will also say that it is dead on arrival.
So how best can we change this narrative?
How best can we change this narrative? And I think this goes to the youth. They should not shy away from politics. Currently, what we are witnessing is that the youths have shied away from politics. They have left the politics to a specific age group. Because you meet a youth, you tell him, not today, I still want to build my life. If I build my life, I will go into politics. So what do they mean by building their life? Because if we don't have good policies, if we don't have good leaders, how will you build your life? If that is the term they use, building my life, how will you build it? Because it is these policies and good leadership skills which will help us to achieve our dreams, to have a fair economy. But the moment we don't want to participate in politics, we are comfortable where we are, then it will take years for us to achieve these changes.
Okay, as we just wrap up, I'll be doing a disservice if I'll not mention the judiciary, for you, especially you being a lawyer. So we see the BBI proposing and floating ombudsman as one of the bodies that it will take in terms of inclusivity, in terms of the judiciary, and taking a larger part in playing in terms of the judiciary. So it seems like the ombudsman will play a major part even in comparison to the JSC, Judiciary Service Commission. So what will be the effects of this, and how will this play between the judiciary and the ombudsman? Will there be any cooperation?
Thank you, Mamadi. At first, I said this document is majorly a political document. It doesn't have the interest of Kenya. Judicial ombudsman has been existing.
Yes.
It's since Chief Justice, the first Chief Justice under the Constitution, William Tunga, was appointed to that office. He created the office of Judiciary Ombudsman.
Yeah.
Yes. So in case this was a genuine document, they ought to have consulted the judiciary, the GSE, how the Judiciary Ombudsman is functioning, so that they ensure there is the independence between the three arms of the government. But now you want to introduce the executive into the judiciary, because it does not make sense for the president to appoint the judiciary ombudsman. So I think the best way we can address this, if we want to make the judiciary ombudsman a constitutional office, then let the Judicial Service Commission do their job. Allow them appoint the judiciary ombudsman, because after every investigation, the judiciary ombudsman will report to the JSC.
Yes.
So let the JSC appoint the judiciary ombudsman.
So what could be the intent of BBI making the ombudsman seem to override the judiciary? What could be the intent?
I think from The actions of the current president,
Yes.
I think you have seen in most situations, he has ignored the judiciary. When the election was cancelled, you realize the two of them, both the president and the deputy president, they made some statements during their rally, and I think from that any Kenyan can see that their main aim is to control the judiciary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what's your last thoughts in terms of the BBI? Your last thoughts.
Thank you. My last thoughts in terms of BBI, I believe just like the Constitution of Kenya 2010, the document may have some good provisions, some may not be good, but what matters is who will we elect as our leaders. The Constitution of Kenya 2010 was considered one of the most progressive constitutions. But our leaders, the people we elected, have made it look like the worst constitution. Because one, they don't obey court order. Two, they don't want to implement it. So BBI may be good. Yes, people may support it. But are you sure they will implement it? If they cannot implement the 2010 constitution to date, how are you sure they are going to implement this BBI, which they believe is the best option for the country? It will still needs leadership skills and political goodwill. Yes, we can have the office of the Prime Minister. The President may appoint his relative, and as you know, Kenya, Parliament will approve that. So how will we have achieved inclusivity? So I believe what will matter is the leaders we will elect in 2022, in case we pass the BBI. But I believe right now we should not be going to a referendum 1 year to an election, because I'm sure majority of Kenyans would make the right choice. Yeah, their choice will be immediately based on political lining.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Linus Oyugi, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Thank you, Mamadi, for the opportunity.
That's the show we have today, coming to you from the University of Nairobi, Department of History and Archaeology.